When you were last with us, we broke down Twins hitters in the month of June. We're going to do pitchers this time around because, shockingly, we took longer than our allotted time. But hey, bonus content. Who doesn't love it on an off day? This is Locked On Twins.
You are Locked On Twins, your daily Minnesota Twins podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello again and welcome back to Locked On Twins. I'm your host, Brandon Warren. You can unfollow me on my inactive Twitter account at Brandon_WARNE. I have been watching the Twins for over 30 years and covering them for over 10. He's Mr. Dave Brown at Answer Dave Brown. He has been in the BBWAA since 2012 and covering baseball at large for about twice as long as that. Dave, what up?
Brandon, I'm doing well. We're just settling into July now. It's funny how fast the time goes, isn't it? It just seems like yesterday that it was February or perhaps even March.
No, opening day, whatever. I mean, it goes quickly. We're now but past halfway through the season. I know we consider the All-Star break the unofficial halfway point of the season. We're a couple weeks out from that. And but yes, it's been quite a ride so far. Twins now 6 games out in the Central. We'll have some discussion on that here coming up, hopefully, as the Twins close that gap. But thanks for making Locked On Twins your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts, as well as on YouTube if you're looking at our bright and smiling faces. And, of course, as part of the Locked On Podcast Network, we're your team every day. Love to hear from you in the comments. We did have a comment or two last night, and we appreciate that very much. Today's episode brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more as the playoffs wind down, or we're out of the playoff season now for hoops and puck. The sports stop sporting like we want them to, but this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone all day, every day, summer long. All summer long. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. In today's show, Dave, we're going to talk starters. We're going to talk relievers. We're going to talk team pitching at large. We're going to talk all kinds of different stuff. But first, also a reminder that you can catch every pitch of the Twins hometown broadcast with Chris Atterbury and friends on SiriusXM. Download the SXM app. Search Twins. It's going to be SWR against Tariq Skubal in the opener of the series on Tuesday, 6:40 p.m. Target Field. Be there and or be square. Dave, there you go. Twins pitching. Now, I want to get to a talking point that I've been hearing before we do the data. And I've been, obviously lurking on Twitter, not liking, not posting or anything like that, because, again, I can't. If you want an explanation, I wish I had one too. But everyone says, the Twins need more bullpen help. And I guess when I look at this situation, I think if you add one more stable starting pitcher, that opens you up to moving Louis Varland to the bullpen, Chris Paddock to the bullpen, David Festa to the bullpen, all of whom can fill in the gaps that you see now, which may or may not be filled by Brock Stewart, Justin Topa et al. And others not at all. Both of them work, I guess. With that said,
we need a Latin clarification, please.
I don't even know if it's the right way to say it. Is it et al? Et al?
I.e., ergo, ipso, fatso. No, I don't speak. It's all right. We are on the way to agreeing on this point. Let's dovetail that.
Let's not forget that.
So, as you were going into your explanation there about what the discourse is on Twitter about what the Twins need from here to the trade deadline, I think you and I agree. And I'll put it maybe slightly another way. If they're going to adding a starting pitcher makes sense, and that will make the bullpen better by giving it fewer innings to worry about.
Trickle down economics.
Yes.
Except not.
Something economics.
Yeah.
We do economics. But real, unlike the Laffer curve and all that stuff from Ferris Bueller. Yeah,
a
I
little
think
Ben Stein action.
they probably could. I mean, I would not tell Falvey to not go out and get a bullpen guy, but I think they should be aggressive in trying to get a better starting pitcher. I think if you look at the good starting pitchers in the Twins rotation, we're happy with them. With Paddock and sometimes with SWR, you see a little leakage a little bit there. And I think if you're thinking about post game series, you don't want another Randy Dobnak type situation. I hate to be worrisome or borrow trouble, but I think getting a good strong starting pitcher is a way to make the starting rotation obviously better and also the bullpen better, because that's fewer innings for the 12th and 13th man to cover at the end, and more opportunities for the high leverage guys in high leverage. I think that's what we want.
I think the Jorge Lopez trade serves as a cautionary tale in that regard too, because obviously Lopez was an all-star that year and I was all in on him. I mean, nasty sinker at the upper 90s, had some decent secondary stuff, and it just never clicked for him. And cost the Twins Cade Povich, who is now in the rotation for Baltimore, or at least has made some starts. Yinye Kano has, I believe, closed with their other cat that's been down. What's his name? The other
Kimbrel?
Oh, well, no. Okay, yeah, he's setting up Kimbrel. Was it Felix Bautista that got hurt?
Oh, Felix Bautista did his Tommy John. Yes.
Yeah. So I mean, the Lopez trade is a bit of a cautionary tale in that regard, but at the same time, too, you have the ability to trade for relievers for fairly cheap. Now, with that said, because the sample size is so short, you get them for 2-ish months. The odds that those 2 months aren't particularly good or aren't enough of a leap, a standard deviation better than what you'd get from, say, a healthy Josh Winder or a Brent Hedrick. That's the risk too, because again, it's already risky to go trade for relievers. You shorten the sample size, so on and so forth. That's again why I'm saying, hey, stay in house. Also, I've seen a lot of Cole Sands slander on the timeline. His rates are pretty dang good. I know his ERA is above 4, or at least it was last I checked, but I'm not opposed to Cole Sands working his way into some higher leverage innings either.
There's a little bit of recency effect there. He had just given up a couple of, the bullpen was, and the pitchers in general kind of put the staff into a tough situation the other day against the Mariners. There were like 18 opportunities with runners in scoring position Seattle had, and they cashed in on 4 of them. I mean, that's a decent enough average, but that's too many. You're stranding a lot of runners. You're kind of lucky to get out of that one with a win. Sands let a couple of inherited runners score there. I think he's been good. He's been solid. I think that, and what you're talking about too, with the trade market, I just think there's a bigger chance of an overpay on a relief pitcher than there is. I'm saying a starting pitcher will cost more, but I still think whatever the relative resources are, you're risking paying too much for a relief pitcher that you don't really know exactly what it is you're getting probably in the bullpen. And I just, I think they have some guy. I like what you said about Louis Varland possibly being an arm for the bullpen for later in the season. I think they have guys. Maybe even David Festa would work out as a relief pitcher in the context of the season in the playoffs. I think that's something to consider as well. They have guys like that I think can fill those roles. Where I'm less sure about them is, can we get another guy in here who's going to go 5 or 6 innings in a big game in the playoffs, in the division series? I think that is where you can make some hay as far as getting this team from one level of the playoffs to the next.
Before we go to break here, I do want to hit you with some numbers with Cole Sands. 4.21 ERA, certainly as a high leverage reliever, you'd probably be like, I don't love that so much. 4.09 expected ERA, which also sounds like what you'd spray on your countertop to get rid of germs. 3.27 FIP, 3.46 xFIP. So all fine numbers, but let's get into the nitty gritty here. 10 strikeouts per 9, perfectly good for a reliever. 1.73 walks per 9, which is incredible. So 42 to 7 strikeout to walk ratio. 5 hit batters you could do without, but end of the day, not horrible. It's certainly not good. 0.99 homers per 9. So it's not like he's been susceptible to homers. And even with those hit batters, his whip is 1.10. To me, you could argue he's pitched quite a bit better than Joan Duran this year.
I think it's kind of worked out that way. Would I bet on that happening going forward? No. But what it does tell you is that in higher leverage type situations, which Rocco has put him in pretty frequently and from the beginning, he's kind of seen something in Sands, I think, from the beginning of the season, that he's capable of being that guy, that third, fourth guy. And that's, these days, that's typical for bullpens. You're not going to get away with a setup guy and a closer anymore. This isn't Mariano Rivera and Mike Stanton or whatever it used to be with the Yankees 25 years ago. So, and if you look at Sands' numbers, a lot of them are in StatCast, so kind of indicating of how he's doing and might do. He's got a lot of red. It's good. He's getting people to chase. He's not necessarily getting them to strike out at a huge amount, but pretty good. 82nd percentile in K percentage, 93 in walks, as you indicated before. He's pretty good. He's better than average in hard hit percentage. He throws pretty hard, so he's giving them. It's not just kind of luck or a soft toss or a change of pace. He puts a little bit of mustard on the ball too. So he's got some different pitches than the other guys that are also setting up in the bullpen. So I like him, and I like some other guys that maybe could fill a role like that they already have on the 40-man roster or even the 26.
Yeah. So you said you wouldn't bet on that moving forward. That's a good segue into our first break. So we'll do that. When we come back, we'll talk a little bit about June as far as team-wide stuff. We'll do some individual stuff, and we'll be right back. We here at Locked On Twins love sports, and we love them so much we don't want to see them stop, but playoff season has wound down for NBA and NHL. WNBA is going strong, but in general, sports are not sportsing like we want them to. FanDuel, though, keeps us in the sports mood because they keep us going whenever we want. All we have to do is open the app and dream up bets. Anytime we're in the mood, you name it, they've got it. All summer long, FanDuel is hooking up customers with a boost or a bonus daily. All customers, not just new customers. That's right. There's something for everyone every single day, all summer long. So head over to FanDuel.com/lockedon and start making the most of your summer. Twins are against the spread, which is -1. The Twins are plus 1.5 or a run and a half, minus 172 there. They're plus 102 on the money line, and the over/under is 7.5. Twins minus 115 there. So you can get in on the action on Tuesday. Twins, that looks like the lock for that is 6:21 p.m. So you have about 19 minutes ahead of time to do that. But FanDuel is the official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. All right, so let's talk monthly team stuff. Rotation, 148 innings, 4.50 ERA, 115 whip, and the slash line against will tell a pretty obvious story. 227 average, 286 on base, 414 slugging percentage with I had it pulled up here, and now they're gone. It was like 1.46 homers per 9 innings. So basically what it comes down to is they pitched well outside of giving up the occasional home run in the rotation.
And didn't do too bad at giving up home runs, as far as quantity goes.
Yeah, 146 via Fangraphs, 9.3 strikeouts per 9, 2.7 walks. Lot to like there, 266 BABIP. So lots to like there.
I would say, and it's skewed. It's sort of like how you like to talk about what an average, how a player's end numbers don't necessarily add up when you look at them monthly or by the streaks. You're hardly ever the kind of hitter you are during the season that you are with your end numbers. So I think it's a little bit of, you've got like extremes with Lopez striking out 14 and pitching 8 shutout innings against the A's the other week or so, about a week ago. Probably maybe the best performance by a Twins starter this season. On the other hand, he still had a hefty ERA for June because of previous starts that were, mechanically he got out of sorts a little bit and he wasn't himself. So what kind of pitcher was he in June? Was he the guy in the last 2 starts or the first 3? So that's where you have to sort of frame these thoughts as far as how teams are doing in the month. Toward the end of the month, Lopez, great. At the beginning of the month, not so good. And the same kind of goes in reverse for Paddock, who had a couple of really good starts, including one against the Rockies, where I think he had like 7 or so shutout innings and a bunch of strikeouts and more velocity, and then his arm died, basically. So you have to keep those things in mind when looking at these numbers, even within the numbers of the entire season.
And it's true even team-wide, 15-12 in June, but the way they ended, you have to feel a little more enthused because Cleveland actually had a better record in June, but I definitely feel better about the Twins coming out of June than I did going into June. So even though they lost ground in the division, theoretically, or not even theoretically, factually, the end of the month definitely provided a bit of hope. Yeah, Pablo Lopez is a very good case study for the dynamic that you just mentioned. A 5.00 ERA and 1.67 homers per 9. I usually figure about 1.3 is when I start to get nervous for a starting pitcher, right, and home runs per 9. Depending on the league average, it varies year to year. But 1.25, 1.3, I start thinking, I don't know about that. But yeah, in 27 innings, he had 35 strikeouts, 9 walks, so 11.7 strikeouts, 3.0 walks, and a whip of 1.15. I don't know if I said that. So a 5 ERA, but a 1.15 whip. Those two things don't really jive until you go back and watch and explain the divide that you explained, where he was, nails for a handful of starts or a couple of starts and then bad in the other 3. And again, you don't get that full picture based on their month-long statistics.
Right. So, just depending on when you notice a guy, you'd think, well, he's having a great month, but nobody's going to say that about Paddock now. At the beginning of the month, at the beginning of June, maybe you'd say, well, he's on a great streak. But again, it's another reason to kind of remember this if you're on Twitter and you're looking at the results from any individual game or at bat or whatever. Don't go too nuts. Don't lose yourself in the moment of. It is a ridiculously long season, and there's probably going to be another stretch this season where Pablo Lopez is struggling a little bit, and people will be, fretting. But look at the other numbers, the Statcast numbers or the expected ERA and that kind of thing, and make sure his velocity isn't down too much. If those things are in check, then you know that if there's a bad moment or two for a guy like Pablo Lopez, it's just because he gave up a couple home runs, because guys in this league hit home runs and you can't avoid it no matter how, not everybody out there is Pedro Martinez, 2001 or whatever, whenever he was 1995, his best. So not everybody's pitching like that. There's going to be some times when the best pitchers in the league give up a few dingers, and it's going to skew the numbers.
Joe Ryan is another interesting case study. He was the only Twin to make 6 starts in the month. 3.68 ERA, 101 whip, only 1 win. We don't care that much about pitcher wins and losses because teams win, pitchers don't. 36 2/3 innings, 37 strikeouts, so a strikeout per inning. 6 walks, so 1.5 walks per 9. But 8 home runs. Like I teased this in our last episode, but more home runs allowed than walks. A 196 homers per 9. Like, everything looks great, and then that strikeout rate is like jump off the screen bad. And again, goes to show how a month worth of statistics, can tell a story, but maybe not the whole story.
And it's it's going to be one of those things where that, kind of I don't want to call it a mediocre month, but where the stats are probably going to keep him off the All-Star team, something like that. It's that's not anything to take too terribly serious. You really have to. You really have to have a clean sheet to make an All-Star team these days. And I'm not sure how many guys on the Twins have that. Even some of their best players go through periods where I remember lots of people kind of wondering, well, is Carlos Correa going to hit he's got like Lavelle said, he's got a rake for $30 million. Well, he's been doing that, but it doesn't happen over every game for 6 months. So right. I don't know how many times we have to tell you this, people, but just don't get too crazy. If somebody doesn't make an All-Star team or somebody's ERA is 3.50, it's all about what the thing looks like when we go into the playoffs.
Trying not to sneeze here, so I apologize. Fangraph stats for the month before we hit our break. 4.50 ERA, but 4.17 FIP, 3.75 xFIP for starters. So again, not half bad for the starters. And honestly, again, the homers are kind of tricky, but everything else is pretty much within the realm of decent. I do want to, I'll talk about this, but there's a very different batted ball profile from their starters and their relievers. So we'll get into that here. Before we go into our break, though, Locked On has launched the first ever National Sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube, and it's available on Amazon Fire TV as well on the new free Fire TV channels app. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every single league. Find Locked On Sports Today now available on the free Fire TV channels app. We'll be back in a moment to wrap things up, talk about some relievers and all that fun stuff. PrizePicks is America's #1 DFS app, has over 5 million active members. It's the easiest and most exciting way to play DFS. It's just you and the numbers. You pick more than or less than on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. You can now get 100 times multiplier with as few as 4 correct picks on PrizePicks. So that's turning $10 into $1,000. That's a huge deal. And even with the finals over, WNBA is in full swing. You got the fun rookies like Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese. You've got the superstars like Brianna Stewart and Nafisa Collier here locally. And so you can watch them ball out and win up to 100 times your money. Download the PrizePicks app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB. You'll get a first deposit match up to $100. That's code LOCKEDONMLB on PrizePicks for a deposit match up to $100. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy. And of course, we would be remiss to not give some love to our friends over at Tax Network USA, because they take care of that dirty work with dealing with the IRS. Here on Locked On Twins, we pride ourselves on keeping you up to date on all things Twins, whether it's spring training, regular season, postseason transactions, all that good stuff. It's year-round, but also tax season is year-round. They're coming after you no matter if it's June, January, or July, and you have to be prepared. The IRS can garnish your wages, they can levy your bank accounts, and even seize your property. So do not let the IRS target you. Let the licensed professionals and tax experts at Tax Network USA go to bat for you. I know Dave has worked like this. I know I've worked like this, where you're an independent contractor, and so you are responsible for paying the taxes on that earning. And it's not impossible, but it's a little tricky. You have to prepare for whether you want to do quarterlies or whether you want to do estimated payments, or if you just pay at the end of the year. You have to be prepared. That's where Tax Network comes in. They have over 14 years of experience and an A+ rating by the BBB. That's the Better Business Bureau. And they have saved their clients over $1 billion in tax debt. So whether you owe taxes, have complicated taxes, or you finally hit that parlay with our friends over at PrizePicks, and you need help filing that correctly, just hit the phone number 1-800-549-1000 or tnusa.com/lockdown, or click the link below here, whether you're watching on YouTube or listening on your favorite podcast provider. That's Tax Network USA. Don't face the IRS all by yourself. Now, Dave, what I wanted to bring up was the Twins have a 36.9% ground ball rate from their starters, 49% from their relievers this would have been in June. So in June, I also broke it down at Access Twins, the place where we both write from time to time, where it was a bigger gap. I think they were over 50% in June for relievers. What do you think that's about? Because, there's high-powered arms, more strikeouts, but grounders, wouldn't you want them to be similar? Or with relievers and the volatility, maybe it makes more sense to keep the ball on the ground?
Well, there is volatility with the relief pitchers, but just off the top, I think it has to do with consistently higher velocities, helping the and being later in the game. Batters maybe being a little more desperate to hit a home run to tie the score or go ahead or something like that. I think that is basically, if I could oversimplify it, why it seems like the relievers have a problem giving up home runs. When I wonder if it's not something that is maybe a little universal around the league. When you've got a guy like Duran, if the batter's going to meet his 101 mile an hour fastball, that has a chance of going out about as much as it does of swinging and missing. So I think that's where that comes from. I think that the tendency for relievers to give up home runs is because the hitters are seeing more consistently hard pitches and they're trying to go deep. I think it's from that and a combination of that and effort. So there was one thing about the stats, the difference in the stats. The Twins bullpen in the previous month in May, when it really struggled, had a win probability added, the relievers of negative 0.36. Who knows what that means? But it ranked 24th in the league between Colorado and Pittsburgh. But going ahead to June, they jumped up to 14th or 15th. So it wasn't a great month for the bullpen as far as how it contributed to the team doing better. But it's better than having a bad month. So there's a couple different ways you can look at that too. You can say, well, the bullpen wasn't on fire. It wasn't dominant. But at the same time, it didn't show a big improvement, and it helped the team in that way by not being as prone to giving up the lead in June as it was in May. So I look at that as encouraging and a sign of improvement.
Fun stat, Twins relievers have not given up a home run since June 21st. So that is 20 and a third innings dated back to games played on the 22nd. 1.33 ERA since then, 0.98 whip, and a slash of 178, 253, 192. So a 445 OPS against. Pretty hard to overstate how good that is. That's basically like early season Christian Vasquez. Who
was that Duran home run against the A's? Was that I don't know if that was the last one, but it seems like that. I mean, that one sticks in everybody's head. So.
Was that the one at the Coliseum where it was? That might be it. I know though, I again at Access Twins did my Twins week in review, and they were one of three teams who did not give up a relief pitcher homer from last Monday through games played on Sunday. So you can dial that back a couple days now that I've done a custom range. But again, keeping the ball in the ballpark, paramount for relief pitchers. And again, too, on Sunday, when they didn't have their best guys available, at least not until Duran in the ninth inning, you're asking Caleb Thielbar, you're asking Steven Okert, you're asking Cole Sands to get some big outs. Cole Sands didn't exactly do that. And in fact, in the last week, the Twins have had 3 inherited runners and all 3 have scored. Actually, that goes back to June 22nd. So not many inherited runners because Rocco does like to do clean innings as much as possible. But yeah, it's been a stout stretch here. And in June, I might want to add that in June, 3.45 ERA, 3.70 FIP, 3.90 xFIP. The strikeouts down a little bit, 8.8 per 9, 3.5 walks. Obviously, the home run rate of 0.8 is very, very good. And then 49% ground ball rate. All of that to me is, numbers where I'm just like, okay, cool. I can get behind that. Maybe want a little more strikeouts. And I think maybe Duran is emblematic of that. And then the velo, Twins 96.3 average on their four-seam fastball, 5th in MLB behind the Mariners, Phillies, Pirates, and Giants. So they're throwing gas and kicking, well, you know what.
I think the key to the Twins, there's going to be a couple of things to the Twins bullpen here in the next month as we come to the trade deadline. Duran continuing to figure out how to navigate things with a couple miles an hour less on his fastball than he's typically used to, topping out at maybe 101 and change rather than 103 and change. I think that he's had to adjust a little bit, but his velocity drop hasn't been so big to me that, he's consistently able to keep it over 100. So that should be, with a well-placed fastball, good enough, if you avoid pitches in part of the zone where you don't want them to go, that should be good enough to get by. I mean, it's still, I think that's a key. And also figuring out here what Brock Stewart can give to the bullpen in the second half of the season, and how long to kind of keep him off to the side a little bit and keep him inactive. There's one thing that I've noticed. I'm not sure why Josh Staumont has not pitched more than once in the last 11 days, but I believe that's correct. So I don't know if he is going through a thing right now, or what. People have kind of asked, well, wouldn't this be a good spot for Staumont? A couple times in the Seattle series, and we didn't really see him. So I wonder if that's something to be keeping an eye on here going forward.
Very, very quickly, is it fair to expect either one of Stewart or Topa to give you anything the rest of the way?
Stewart, I think we'll see again. I don't know. I'm kind of worried about what we'll see. Topa, I definitely, when you're talking about like knee surgery, I would not count on it at all. I would not.
Okay. Well, hey, that's been a fun breakdown. Dave, thank you so much. We will be back. We'll get some shows in here before the 4th of July holiday. But again, he's Dave Brown, BBWAA member since 2012. I'm Brandon Warren, Twins fan and writer for the last X number of years. This has been Locked On Twins, and we'll see you tomorrow night.